Now, let's move to the third agenda item for today, which a talk entitled Bridging the Education for Future, Transformative Pedagogy for Effective Online Teaching. This talk will be given by Associate Professor Dr. Wan Zuhaini Saad from Ministry of Education, Malaysia. This session will be moderated by Miss Siti. Now, I would like to invite Miss Siti to begin the session.
Hi everyone. Okay. Welcome to Learning Resource Festival and thank you Nurul for inviting me. So before we begin our first plenary talk, I would like to remind all participants to put your questions related to the questions in the chat box, and we will collect the questions and address it during the Q&A session later. Today's first plenary talk entitled Bridging the Education for Future, Transformative Pedagogy for Effective Online Learning will be delivered by Associate Professor Dr. Wan Zuhaini Saad, Director of Academic Excellence Division, Department of Higher Education, Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia. And Associate Professor Wan Zuhaini is an educational technology enthusiast. She practices e-learning and active learning approach in enhancing students' engagement for effective and meaningful learning. She is a strong advocate of empowering learners in experiential learning. She has received multiple awards in education technology, including winner of Reimagining and Redesigning Higher Education and Best Trendsetter Award in IUCEL 2017. She has also received 2017 Excellent Educator Award and the winner of the National Academic Award in 2018. So without further ado, please welcome Associate Professor Dr. Wan Zuhaini Saad to share the topic with us. Over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. Thank you, Miss Siti. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, IMU, for having me in this virtual Learning Resources Festival. Congratulations to IMU. To all the invited speakers and participants today. Today I'll be sharing with you on the topic on transformative pedagogy for effective online learning, sharing some of my practices as a microbiologist. Just now, you were with we were together with Prof. Carl Karp, and he mentioned that his wife is a microbiologist, and I was thinking, like, you know, I hope that more of microbiologists out there actually using technology as a tools in their teaching and learning. So when we actually look at where we are now, when we talk about bridging the future, we talk about, look at the, this is actually shared by futurism. In the very near future, some of the jobs, you know, some of the routines job may not be, may not be there. So another one is, this one is actually a 3D, sort of like a 3D printed food, for example. Even in the UK, there are restaurants where you can actually order food through through 3D printers, and they will actually print out the food for you. And maybe in very near future also, for example, like tools like YouTube and Skype and Twitter will be a history. And in this today's changing world in higher education, due to the pandemic, our the pandemic actually has leapfrogged the integration of information technology and in education, that actually encouraging innovations in educational technology to propagate digital learning. However, the implementation has been a challenge, and the switch or the rapid transition to online learning has happened so quickly that while most of the educators and also the students themselves had limited exposure in this new mode of fully online learning. And in today's changing world, higher education is confronted with new, unprecedented problems requiring adapt and also nimble solutions. So the shift in higher ed is focused to online learning, along with the attendant of privacy and also security concerns, and poses challenges, but also at the same time offers opportunities. So we can say that the pandemic is a game changer and creates an opportunity to make transformational change. And it's also provide opportunities for growth and innovation. And at these uncommon times, call for uncommon thinking. World Economic Forum in April 2020 published this, reported that even before COVID-19, there was already a high growth in and adoption in education technology, reaching about 18.66 billion in 2019. And the overall market for online education is projected about 350 billion by 2025. That is actually inclusive of all the tools, the technological tools, especially on the video conferencing tools like Zoom, WebEx, and Microsoft Teams, for example. This handbook of facilitating flexible learning was actually published this year by UNESCO, and the director of UNESCO International Research and Training Center for the Rural Education mentioned that we need to come together not only to address the immediate educational consequences, but to build up the longer term resilience of education systems. Just now, Professor Kopp mentioned on how degree in the long term, whether there was a question from the participant just now, whether the degree in the long term still will be relevant. I do believe that this is the time that the transformation, including the transformations of the academic program, the curriculum, the syllabus, the transformation of educators to produce resilience and change-ready talents that can accommodate or fulfill the requirements, not only the industry, but also the societies. The World Economic Forum also recently, last week, has published the Future Jobs 2020 reports. If you look at the top 10 job roles in increasing demand across industries, number one is data analysts and scientists, and all the digital skills, digital marketing, digital transformation specialists, Internet of Things specialists, for example. And top 10 skills of 2025, also by the Future of Jobs Report 2020 by World Economic Forum, mentioned that analytical thinking and innovation is number one, the first skills of 2025, And if you look at the creativity, critical thinking and problem solving, okay, also is the used to be the number one skill, but now it is predicted in 2025 will be among still within the top 10, but it's not the first. The first one is on how we can nurture our learners to have the analytical thinking and innovation. Resilience and stress tolerance and flexibility also is under the self-management skill in these top 10 skills of 2025. And time needed to start building the new skills online in jobs of tomorrow was reported for people and culture, content writing, sales and marketing within 1 to 2 months. But for cloud computing and engineering skills, within 4 to 5 months. So the new current, now you see the coronavirus or the pandemic has actually provided an enormous catalyst to accelerate the opportunity of the future of to today. So one of the examples in the higher education where you see here is from BC to AD. BC is actually from before coronavirus to AD is after disease. This is actually published by the Global Silicon Valley recently. And this, we are expecting that this shift to online learning is here to stay. And in this new world, new skills and new opportunities for the educators to provide opportunities for our learners to instill the skills. Although this Future of Work Skills of 2020 was published earlier by these 10 Future of Work skills, I think are very relevant and very important. And as you can see here, the first Future of Work skill is actually sense making. I do believe it's very important for learners to be able to determine the deeper meaning of the significance of what they're learning in the classroom, for them to be able to apply, for them to be able to apply in the community to give impact to the societies. For example, a design mindset, ability to represent and develop tasks and work processes for desired outcome, for example. Transdisciplinary. Earlier also Prof. Karp mentioned about how we can work convergent, work collaboratively, not only with the same discipline, but transdiscipline. And you can see in the virtual collaboration, to have that skill, to be able to work productively, engage with the team members, demonstrate the presence as a team members in a virtual environment. So talent of the future is actually not for job seekers, but for job creators. We are preparing our students for them to be able to be resilient. We are guiding them on how to learn, okay, and not what to learn. So these changes in the societies, in student expectations and the technology have actually motivate our universities, our faculties to be more, as an instructors, to be more creative and innovative in designing the learning experience for our students. because our students demand engaging experience. They want to be challenged in class. They want to speak up their minds. So the faculties, they need to have experience, or they need to be to have the skill in using the technology. Different approach in teaching model, for example, and more efficient grading. So instead of having just exams, writing exams, or you can, we are focusing or emphasizing on holistic assessment or alternative assessments, whether by through online, especially through online learning, where we evaluate our student in many methods, many in the form of, for example, in the form of e-portfolios or task-based assessments or challenge-based assessments. And all these actually contribute also to our goals in the 10th shift of the Malaysian Education Blueprint that was published in 2015 for higher education. Well, the first shift is to produce holistic, entrepreneurial and balanced graduates. And the other shifts actually support the Malaysian education blueprint. For example, to produce talents and quality of the TVET graduates, nation of lifelong learners, with the enablers like the innovation ecosystem and globalized online learning. With the framework of Shared Prosperity Vision 2030 that was launched in 2019, one of the enablers is education and TVET, where this enabler also mentioned about increase in skilled, okay, and highly educated workforce, learning society, and outcome-based education. So this shared prosperity vision, we can actually interpret as shared resources amongst higher education, shared expertise among our faculties, among all higher learning institutions. And of course, to ensure the inclusive and equitable quality education within the sustainable development goal of for example, like number 4, quality education. This is to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. And the Department of Higher Education also had revised the future ready curriculum framework, where focusing on the fluid and organic curriculum structure to give flexible learning, flexible education through multi, inter or transdisciplinary curriculum, non-conventional, with the work or collaboration with the industry, and also to instill, okay, to bring our students to internationalizations. And that can only happen with this fluid and organic curriculum structure. That can happen only with the transformative teaching and learning delivery through 21st century pedagogy, learning spaces, and as I mentioned just now, on how we should be assessing our students through holistic assessment, and those actually to produce lifelong learners with the 21st century skills, with a good design thinking, design mindset, and holistic, entrepreneurial, and balanced graduates. Maybe we can take about 1 minute to answer one question here. You can go to this link, or you can scan the QR code and answer the questions. Can we get in? Let's see if there, no one, not yet. Oh yeah, now we have some participants who have actually answered the questions. So I can see the biggest word there is engaging, engagement, interactive, right? So we'll give another 30 seconds. This is the link and the QR code. Okay, so well, 24, 25 people have answered the questions. This is through the Mentimeter. I'm sure you are all familiar with this. So the larger the word, showing the most words, the high frequency number of words used. Interactive, engagement, okay. Flexibility, synchronous, games, hands-on, okay. Fun, right? Okay, engaging, interactive, engagement, okay. Synchronous, games, flexibility, those are the bigger word. Collaboration, I see the collaborations there, right? So during the first MCO in Malaysia, you know, when we had that experience on that transition from conventional, from blended learning supplement to blended learning substitution, from face-to-face to online, fully online. One of the challenges, I think, is to design the activities, okay, in the syllabus and to deliver, not only to design, but to deliver it online. And it is very important that when you when you design your tasks and deliver through online, it should not be as the same as you deliver in the classroom or face-to-face. It is very important that you would want to reimagine, or I like to use the word reimagineering learning, meaning that you have to imagine and do. So when we design the learning, it is beyond the conventional way of engaging our students. Of course, the challenges is, you know, like right now I'm talking, it's like I'm talking to myself, but we have about 100 participants actually. So instead of giving lectures in the form of, you know, the same as you're giving during your class, the most important thing is you want to, the biggest word just now that you give is engage. Now, during this pandemic, MOOC, okay, the massive open online courses all around the world has actually increased the enrollment to MOOC have increased more than 65%. And in Malaysia also, we have published guidelines and shared, or we have sharing of best practices in MOOCs. For example, in 2016, we have also published guideline on credit transfer MOOC and we also had shared how the quality of MOOC Malaysia's also, for example, the journey of MOOC. But as also mentioned by Prof. Cup just now, we should be able to have the mechanism, okay, to transfer the credits through MOOC courses that have been offered, students, each university should have the mechanism for students to transfer their credits if the students have actually completed the MOOC course from any other universities. The universities can actually have their own self-assessment or competency assessment of the students taking the MOOC. And we have actually, in QA has actually, in July 2020, has published a guideline to good practices on micro-credentials. So in micro-credentials, especially now, where students, they want to be flexible in identifying courses that they want to take. So micro-learning or micro-credentials through digital badges or stackable credentials, okay, will be I cannot say, I won't say that long in the future, because the future on micro credentials is actually now. We have universities offering courses in micro credentials and to be transferred in the form of credit, or the micro credentials are given, students are given credentials in the form of digital badges. The cumulative of the digital badges then transferred into credits for graduation. So I'm sharing one of the examples from the University of Science Malaysia micro-credential courses. And another method of getting our students to be engaged online is through global classroom. This is from the University of Malaysia, Pahang, where students actively engage and immerse in online activity with the classes of students from other universities, not especially in overseas. So through these global classrooms, task-based learning, including, for example, forum, projects, they even have debates online. So students from Malaysia, for example, have debate from students from the UK. So for us to produce students that are resilient, that be able to adapt in the future, we need to have that. We need to have our students to have the maker mindset, and in order to do that, we need to embed making in the curriculum, empowering the students through learning by doing. And that can happen only through project-based learning, or task-based learning, challenge-based learning, evidence-based learning. But the most important thing is you need to get your students to be involved. And Professor Cups mentioned his expertise on game-based learning, play by games or play to learn, for example, from his book. And there are many resources to actually for our educators to have that fundamental, what we call the fundamental digital skills for the 21st century educators. Now, as a microbiologist, okay, people may think that learning microbiology or learning life sciences courses a bit dry, and it's all about remembering or memorizing, okay? But in order for us, we as educators, as the 21st century educators, we need to have to provide that opportunities for our learners to experience. So these are some of the examples of the project-based learning that I have given my students. And as I mentioned, as a 21st century educators also, we need to have the ability to work together with our learners as co-creators and co-learners, okay? So we come back to the 10 critical skills to succeed at work in 2020. First is sense making, right? How do we make sense? How do we get our students to make sense of what they learn in the classroom through online learning? How do we get our to develop design mindset? How do they know that they can actually work with other people from different disciplines? And that can happen through virtual learning environment. So these are some of the examples. For example, of course, this is actually a hybrid of physical and online, but tools or digital tools were used online, and that digital tools can be used collaboratively. Okay, so I'm going to go examples. These are all some of the examples that I mapped out through the critical skills just now, mapped with the projects that I have given my students. So, innovating pedagogy by creating a virtual learning environment that fosters collaboration, application, and student-led learning. So that is the approach, is one of the approaches that you can use in order to engage our learners in the virtual learning environment. And although we know that students, there are many challenges in the online learning. Students with very low bandwidth or without internet access, and some of them, they don't have devices at home to do online. They were just using their mobile. So as an educator, for effective online learning to happen, you have to be able to identify how to connect with your students. If you have 50 students in your class, each and every one must be connected to you. Okay, so one of the examples that I'm sharing is on the virtual team teaching. Now, as I mentioned, I know that it's not an easy task where you get your students to connect with others, but due to this pandemic, one of the blessing in disguise is everybody has to go online. And in that virtual environment, we need to develop the learning community, specific learning community in that specific spaces. Okay, so one of the tasks that I have given my students was to teach the 4th grade students in the Albuquerque, US, North Star Elementary and Zuni Elementary Schools. This was done by developing videos and task activities. We even use Padlet, we use Plan Space, we use the digital tools to connect with the students. So my students, my microbiology students, create activities and share learning resources with their schools, and this is actually to replace their science classes for that particular semester. So we just use simple, we use blank space, and the schools, they were using Touchcast, and we meet twice a semester virtually.
I had the wonderful opportunity to pair with Dr. Wong, a professor of microbiology in Putra, Malaysia. Her college students had taken their knowledge of microbiology and adapted it to teach our students 4th grade science standards. The
Malaysian students created incredible interactive activities to teach aspects of microbiology to our 4th graders. We could not have imagined what our students were going to learn through this elevated version of collaboration.
Can you imagine if other educators began to utilize virtual team teaching in their practice? There's the potential of having an international connection of schools that does not solely focus on a picture in time, but creates invaluable content to connect students around the world. The amount of knowledge we can share and learn from each other is limitless.
So from there, we also develop courses within the Malaysian universities. This is a project, collaborative project that actually, when we actually map out the skills, number one, sense making, how our students, and also virtual collaboration and design mindset. For this particular project, my students taking service learning in microbiology course, working together with students from the University of Islam International Islamic University and University Science Malaysia. University Science Malaysia are students from the service teacher teaching special education, and from RIUM is English majoring in instructional design. So the idea was to get my students teaching, prepare a module on what are microbes, and how to wash your hands properly, and if you don't wash your hand properly, what other microbes can be found on your hand. So when the content was ready, we the students from IUM and from USM actually developed the modules for the teachers, to teach the special needs students on about microbes. So we actually produce modules and offer it in the form of MOOC. So this is actually a collaborative learning, transdisciplinary courses. So the collaborative peer learning in the virtual environment, okay, is one of the techniques used, one of the methods used in getting our students to engage. So this was actually done 2016 and 2017, 4 years ago. And because of pandemic recently, the virtual microbes has been, I have received emails and Twitters and WhatsApp asking on how do we actually organize, how we're going to do this, okay, how we're going to work together on. So this virtual microbe actually involves 769 students with 8 universities, including students from La Trobe, Australia, and also from Lafayette College, US. So the students met virtually using Zoom at that time. And it is actually a peer learning collaboration where students work together on a task, okay? So they have to submit the progress report in the form of digital scrapbook, for example. And these discussions are being recorded and uploaded in the YouTube channel at that time. We were using the same simple tool as Padlet to communicate.
Okay, I'm Riley. You call me Riley. I'm studying microbiology, but my major is biology, just general biology. And I like the summertime and going outside. What country are you all in?
Malaysia.
You're all in Malaysia?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Okay, so that is one of the first meeting when they had, and they have to discuss on how to complete the task, complete the assignment. They were given rubrics and timeline and progress. So one of the I will share with you some of the outputs, and I also include this gamification or game-based learning, as Professor Kapp just now mentioned, how we can actually use gamification, and the product that produced by the students. Actually, students who actually produce games or design the game can be used, okay, can be used by the next batch of students, for example. But the most important thing is the process when students actually design, okay, solve problems, finding solutions, and manage their time. That is the most important process to instill, to develop. And games, okay, in the form of many types of games. This one is actually using 3D, 2D AR. Okay, we have also actually we have published or produced a lot of the desktop games or game cards, play cards, and using digital tools and apps, okay, and apps that actually able to enhance understandings, not only for the educators but also for our learners. So the digital tools actually help us to manage to manage the task. It is actually a platform, okay, for students to organize their projects, and there are tools for that. For example, this one we are using Trello, and tools and digital apps through online learning also are used as a product. For example, using Canva for the infographics, and the tablet.
My mother and grandmother used the open kettle canning method for decades and passed them.
And there are apps that actually very engaging app. This is called ThinkLink. I think most of you have used this. Now, although synchronous, can be part of the asynchronous learning online that you can actually give your students to do. So this is very interactive and very engaging, where students able to curate information, okay, to curate information, and from that information, you get the students to prepare quizzes. Students who actually prepare quiz for their class, okay? So their friends will actually answer the questions that was designed or developed by their friends. So this is collaborative peer learning, but at the same time, not only students will have to curate information, they have to do research. They have to go through journals and videos to analyze and evaluate, to identify which one is actually important and relevant to the task given. So I think ThinkLink is one of the best tools that you can use to interact our students online. Okay, some of the other products that are produced through online are, for example, comics. Okay, students develop comics based on the topics or syllabus given. So they can either work in groups or individual, but we are talking about when we talk about collaborative learning. So one of the tools that you can use is Tundu, for example, where you get your students to come up with the comics on the certain topics. This is actually on the micro comics also. So this is one of the techniques that you can use online to develop critical thinking and of course reading and writing skill also. And you know, it is very important that you need to be able to unleash students' creative potential by giving them all these projects. And it is also important that to know, okay, how the impact of the approach, what have they learned, and for students to be able to reflect. So the reflections can be in many forms. We do not want to limit our students' creativity. So reflections can be in the form of writings, can be in the form of blogs, can be in the form of e-portfolio. Some of the students came up with using Powtoon, for example. So I think it's again one of the tasks given that we can actually that we used to give tasks physically, okay, in the classrooms. Now, we want to, in order for us to redesign it online, okay? So one of the projects that I have given my students is called this MINIC, Microbes Invention, Innovation and Ideation Challenge. So I've seen that this year, 2020, there are many, I think in this IMU virtual learning resource, this festival also you have the competition. So one of the challenge, okay, one of the challenge that you can give your students is to come up with ideas on how to solve problems, on how to solve community problems and relate them to the subject matter. So in the soon in the Department of Higher Education also, we will be launching an e-Sulam challenge. It is for the Service Learning Malaysia University for Society. So these are all some of the project that I have given my my students, which most of it are all using online and web-based tools to enhance their learning, and also the most important thing is to empower them to learn by doing. And in the online environment, the effective online learning can happen if we have to be patient. Yeah? We have to be patient. We have to have that empathy. Not only that as educators to have that empathy, but we need to guide our students in the same virtual learning environment to have that empathy amongst their peers. And in order to do that, we need to communicate, because we need to connect with our students. And this, in this difficult time, okay, students need to know that they are, we appreciate their presence, whether it is synchronous or asynchronous. That's why we need to be able to connect with our students. And this, because of the pandemic, Center for Teaching and Learning has become the first responders actually to support the pedagogical and digital transformation of courses. So I would highly recommend you to read this paper, the white paper on disruption by Centers for Teaching and Learning during the COVID-19 pandemic, leading the future of higher ed 2020. They have a very good resources, even for administrators. And these are the two books, Adding Some Tech Varieties, and also the Understanding How We Learn, a visual guide. This Understanding How We Learn, a visual guide is a very interesting book that actually help educators to understand more on how we can design our learning to provide the learning experience for our students. And when we talk about inspiring, we want our students to be inspired, but through the experiential learning, individualized, non-traditional, self-directed. It has to be self-directed, passion-driven, innovative, reflective, experiential learning. And it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And lastly, I would like to quote by Toffler: the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. With that, I end my talk. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wan Zohainis, for a very informative and interesting talk. Now, is there any questions from the participants?
Good morning, Prof. Johannes. This was an excellent talk.
Thank you.
I am Director of Learning Resources in IMU. I have some dilemma about how much of e-learning we can incorporate in traditional curriculum. For example, if I have got a 5-credit course, how much credit I can give for e-learning?
How much credits? Actually, you must. We always have to remember that the technology, the tools are actually the technology is actually the tools to enhance learning. So right now, we are using blended learning approach. Before this, in 2014, blended learning was used as a method to supplement the face-to-face. It was about 30% of the contact hours. So let's say if that is 3 credits, 30% is about 12 hours. But because of this pandemic, everybody has to go online. Some of the courses are more than that, even go up to 80% or 90%. But during if you have hybrid courses, blended courses, with the approach of blended learning substitution, you can decide whether you want to have 50% of the substitution online, or you can have 60-40 or 70-30. Is up to you. Depends on the courses itself. There is no fixed percentage or credit for the online learning, but it's good to discuss that with your program owners, from the department, to identify what would be the best online learning allocated for that particular course.
That means for the present scenario, we are allowed to alter the usual ratio of 30 to 50% of e-learning blended with the traditional face-to-face. But once we go back to the normal scenario in mid 2021, what will happen?
Okay. You see, after the first MCO, when the everybody has to do online, and coming this semester, some of the universities actually they have that experience, doing online, and some of them actually preferred to do online the courses. So I think there will be more online courses being offered within this 2021. But of course, based on our Malaysian Qualification Agency, whether that particular course, the whole program itself, is actually open distance learning, ODL, or is it conventional? When conventional courses, then you will have coursework plus online blended. But if it is ODL, it is actually more than 60% of your whole courses are being offered online.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, since there is no other questions from the participants, this is a questions from me myself. So you've mentioned just now about ensuring students to have empathy. So how are we going to inculcate empathy in students through digital learning?
One of the one of the methods that I have used is actually for them to become self-directed learners or self-determined learners. They need to be able to communicate with their peers in a task. So the task that you design actually will also help you to instill or to develop empathy. For example, this collaborative work that involve students from other disciplines, students from other universities or other faculties, they need to have they need to manage the time to meet, for example, or to submit their part of the work. So this in order for that to work, they need to be able to communicate and to to give time and to work together with their team members and to help each other. So they need to understand the situations with in the team members. Those are one of the examples that you can actually instill empathy. So it is very important that when you actually design, you can actually work with your students, together to co-design or co-create the task.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wan Zuhanis. Another question is, what do you say about role of informal learning and how we could consider designing activities outside the classrooms?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think I forgot to mention that most of the tasks that I have given my students are not graded. Even just now, the first task that the virtual team teaching that I gave my students to teach the 4th grade students in Albuquerque, those projects are not graded. I think it is important to create, to pick the students' curiosity, to instill the interest for them to explore. Once they explore, they discover, they master it, and they share. So when they are interested, okay, when they are interested, you will not actually have the challenge to get the students to do. And you don't actually underestimate our students' capabilities. So empower them, okay? And when they are empowered and they are interested to explore, then you will not have any difficulties in designing activities outside the classroom. And furthermore, they even volunteer to do for you. So first is to actually instill the interest and make sense. They need to make sense of whatever that they're learning. The first skill just now.
And another question from Hasnain, how we could manage this change and where most of the teaching and learning is online. Share your tips on how faculty could upskill and or reskills themselves.
Okay, thank you again for the questions. Again, during the MCO, if you notice, since March 2020, there were many sharings through webinars from low tech, high tech to no tech also. Okay, no tech, low tech to high tech of how to teach online. And of course, the educators They need to to identify simple tools, okay, and how to use the technology for learning. You don't have to learn everything, but you should be able to identify in the syllabus, in this particular topic, what are the tools that can actually help your students to achieve the learning outcomes. So it's the process of the transformation from conventional to online, but in between that, you can just use as simple tools as Padlet just now, Padlet that was shared just now, as simple as that. So Zig Ziglar quote, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Okay, and I think the last question would be, we have seen some students who enjoyed learning digital learning, and we also seen some students who are struggles, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic situations. But we want our students to actually be able to learn and to survive in this digital learning. What would be the qualities that we need to emphasize on our students to ensure that they are able to survive, and how are we going to support them?
Okay, thank you. I think the skill gaps, okay, the skill gaps may continue to be high as demand skills across jobs have changed in the next 5 years, for example, right? I believe that in order for us to reduce, we're not closing the gap, but to reduce the gap is to transform the academic programs. That is how we can actually support. Transform the academic program, transform so that you can design from day one what will be the experience that you want to give to, that you want to provide for your students. You either in the forms of one of the initiatives that we have in my division in the Department of Higher Education is what we call Excel. That is the experiential learning and competency-based education. It is actually an academic program transformation where the faculties or program owner need to identify what will be the type of programs that are suitable for our students to produce resilient and change-ready talents, either be it industry-driven programs or community-based programs or personalized program or the what we call research, okay, research infused. So all of those actually are to provide experiential learning for our students, and that through that experiential learning, then you will be able to emphasize and also to evaluate the skills that the students need to be resilient and to be change ready.
Thank you, Dr. Wan Zuhainis. I mean, we've learned a lot from these sessions, and these sessions has opened our mind and on the landscape of digital learning in Malaysia, which could be applied in many other contexts too. And COVID-19 has actually provided us the opportunity, I mean, to all educators to leap from the usual face-to-face learning to online learning, and make us realize that it is possible for us to embark the journey in the online learning. We know that Ministry of Higher Education has put an effort to put up the new learning framework for 2030, and new learning framework demonstrated that there is a need to be the balance between transformation of teaching and learning delivery and holistic assessment, rooted back to the other framework like MQF 2.0, industry partnership, and global learning. I know that getting everyone on board will ensure that we could move forward in this era of digital learning, and this includes educators, instructional designers, e-learning team, administrators, and etc. So getting feedback from all of these stakeholders will be a good initiative for us to evaluate on how far we have able to achieve our target in this online learning. I hope that summarized the sessions, and thank you again, Dr. Wan Zohainis, and all participants for a very insightful session. And I believe all of us has learned a lot from the sessions. With that, I'll pass back the session to our MC, Ms. Noel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.